Superman by James Gunn. Very rarely, if ever, have I gone into a movie with less of an expectation of what I'm about to see, as for every piece of material released either by the official marketing campaign or from reactions post its premiere, you've heard two stories. Either this is a glorious return to Superman, Boy Scout in the skyedness of the true and pure hero we all desperately want and desire right now, and then another voice going, no, actually, it's a woke-fest disaster, a complete mess that can end up as nothing more than a bright piss yellow stain on his red cape. A tale of two extremes, which in a way actually kind of fits this movie very well, for reasons we'll get to in a second. And having now actually seen the movie, I suspect that this is evidence of either A, in part, a marketing scheme dreamt up by DC and James Gunn, or conclusive evidence that James Gunn should be confined in a very small box, with access to a computer and the internet so he can load up stuff to the company server, of course, but otherwise removed as far away from any audio recording devices as humanly possible, as the virtually all of the pre-release marketing material, etc., was wildly misleading to what the actual movie was about. And here's the thing, getting attention to a Superman movie is not the hard part. Getting people to know that there is a Boy in Blue DC movie coming out, that's easy. Getting people to want to go watch it, to have a positive opinion and vibe about it before it comes out, enough to put down the money for an entrance ticket, that's the challenge. And so a negative PR campaign, or any negative PR whatsoever in the age of social media, is likely to be significantly more impactful than the positive PR. Now, whether or not this marketing campaign, I presume, will work out or not, well, we're gonna have to wait and see on the box office there. But let's get to the actual movie then, shall we? As if I was forced to describe this movie in roundabout a single sentence or so, I would say that there is a difference between shaving and castrating yourself with a razor blade. As again, this is definitely a tale of two extremes here. For example, I myself vehemently argued that we don't need another Superman origin story. We don't need another Year Zero Superman. We already know all about that. In fact, there was a hundreds and hundreds of hours long television series outlining all of that for us called Smallville. We don't need the origins of Superman. We know we know his style, his personality, his intentions, all of this is well known. But we also don't necessarily need a 3 years post his debut movie either, as that's when this movie starts, 3 years after he makes himself known to the world. It even takes place 3 months, after he reveals himself to Lois Lane to show that Clark Kent is Superman. Okay, we don't need Year Zero, but I'm not sure we need Year 3 either, as at this point we've skipped the majority of the Superman things that Superman does, and go straight to the climactic finale. We've jumped all over the rescuing cats out of treetops, or, stopping bank robbers, the low-level stuff that he would have begun with that won everybody's heart and made them all love him. Now, it's sprinkled in a little bit here and there in the bigger fights, but I can't help but feel that this entire movie feels like episode 5 in a 10-episode long TV series rather than a standalone product, and that has both strengths and weaknesses. Its strength is that it allows you to skip all of the waffle. It allows you to have a relatively long and fairly compact runtime with a lot of action in it, and just get straight to him dealing with Lex Luthor, him dealing with kaijus, and him wrestling with great moral questions, and in the end here, embracing the fact that he is a human rather than an alien. that's good. On the other hand, it also dumps you directly into the DC universe, and you're kind of like, what the fuck? There's the Fortress of Solitude. Why is Krypto beating up Superman? How the hell did Lex Luthor gain access to the Fortress of Solitude? Is that Hawkgirl? Fucking me, that's Guy Gardner. And you're kind of just left like, overwhelmed by what the heck is going on here. Why does Luthor hate him in this show? Is it just because he feels superior? And that is what it turns out to be, that Lex Luthor is like, I'm the best human being, you only beat me because you're an alien, so I hate you, and so on, which is a fairly classic comic version of Lex Luthor. And there's the thing. If you know a fair bit about the DC universe, if you've consumed a fair bit of DC media, you will in large part feel quite at home here, and that does work out very well in the favor of the already entrenched DC fans. Although I do suspect this is going to do significantly worse with the general audience that might not have quite as much of an idea of what's going on here. Especially when you pick people like Guy Gardner, who's amazing but a bit more niche, or Mr. Terrific, which Mr. Terrific is fantastic in this. Out of the three of the Justice Gang, well, Guy Gardner and Hawkgirl, excuse me, both of them, their presentations, their performances are spot on, except for Hawkgirl's random screeching all the time, that's a bit weird, but they look completely wrong. They look terrible in their roles. Mr. Terrific, however, not only nails the character, but looks fantastic as well, so I adore his part in all of this. Krypto, though. This is where we get to what I am imagining is going to be a major divisive point in Superman, as I hate that fucking dog. I hate Krypto. And I know, hating a poor little fluffy creature is not going to earn me a lot of friends on the internet, but he was a terrible, terrible idea. Because Superman in this show is a good Superman. He is the hero. He is the good guy we need him to be. And when he's allowed to do Superman stuff, it's great. There are some fantastic shots of Superman being Superman in this. And the movie clearly demonstrates a solid understanding of who Superman is as a person, as a character, and how he works. He feels vulnerable, conflicted, and yet powerful at the same time. And then the dog butts in. Fuck me, I hate the dog. It's not that I dislike the dog as a character in and of itself, it's that the dog detracts from the rest of the story. You have a really cool moment, and then the dog comes in. Like, there is a fight near the end where we are getting an incredibly obvious plot point revealed, although I'll try to stay away from it, where Superman realizes that the guy he's fighting is being watched by Lex Luthor. Lex is radioing him instructions via a series of camera drones hanging all around. Okay, now that Superman knows this, he'll just, kick it into Mach 57 and destroy all of them in a nanosecond. Before Lex could even possibly register that he's gone, he'd just destroy all of them, alright? Because he's fucking Superman. We see him travel from Metropolis to Antarctica in like 30 seconds in the show. He's fast. And yet instead, he goes, hey, Krypto, I've demonstrated throughout the movie that I can't tell you to do shit. In fact, more often than not, when I do tell you to do something, you're gonna do the opposite. But Krypto, destroy the drones. And Krypto does so. That was an opportunity to show Superman being clever, Superman being powerful, not his dog. As it's also not just even the problem with, giving up screen time to the dog, is that the dog feels silly. It feels too silly. There are many points in the movie, like the giant kaiju, for example, or the introduction of a pocket dimension, or the mention of his hypnosis glasses, which I actually think is an excellent explanation of why nobody recognizes Superman. That he has basically some kind of low-level hypnotic power, which when filtered through his glasses, changes his appearance to other people. Okay, cool. That is a perfectly adequate comic explanation for why nobody recognizes him as Clark Kent, although David Cornsweet, I know that's not his name, but this is what my brain keeps telling me his name is, looks terrible as Clark Kent. He is not a good Clark Kent. He is an adequate Superman. He's no Henry Cavill, but he's an adequate Superman. He's a terrible Clark Kent. He looks bad as Clark Kent, and he doesn't feel convincing as Clark Kent. He feels too much like, well, Superman the rest of the time, basically. But anyways, the problem is that the majority of the movie is actually relatively serious, but with comic book aspects. Pocket dimensions, comic book feel. Hypnosis glasses, comic book feel. Guy Gardner actually using constructs with his ring instead of shooting fucking laser bolts. Comic book. All of the comic book stuff works really, really well, but the dog is too much. Again, difference between shaving and chopping off your dick, where if you'd gotten rid of the dog, I feel like it would have been a perfect balance between live action and comic book nonsense. But with the dog, to me, it was just a massive distraction and too much comic book in a live action show. Too much unseriousness, too much wacky nonsense for the sake of wacky nonsense. Now, we also have an introduction of a fair few little side characters as well. Metamorpho, for example, who's a good guy in this one, which I like. He's being used for his powers by Lex Luthor against his will. Good. I always thought that Metamorpho made a far better reluctant villain, like a tool, than an actual bad guy. And as a hero, there's quite a lot of potential there, honestly. That's good. Guy Gardner, excellent performance, looks terrible in the role. Hawkgirl, same thing, good performance, looks completely wrong, like not even remotely close. Mr. Terrific shines, amazingly so. Lois Lane is 90% there, but I really dislike the fact that we did the whole, oh, he already has revealed himself to be Superman to her. Like, Clark Kent having a romance with Lois Lane, secretly loving her, falling for her, is a huge part of his character, and seeing as the main point of Superman is him embracing his humanity, well, what could possibly be more human than falling in love with a girl, trying to get her attention, competing for her attentions with somebody like Lex Luthor? And what a perfect opportunity to make Lex hate Superman and Clark more by seeing Lois Lane fawning over Superman, of course. And not to mention, the reveal of Superman, the secret, and there feels like there's no secret here. Like, his secret identity might as well not exist. He is Clark Kent in like one scene. Lois knows he's Superman, Guy Gardner knows he's Superman, Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, everyone knows he's Superman. Hell, Perry and Jimmy Olsen even know that Lois Lane is boinking Superman. Ugh. Too far in. The secret identity is a part of Superman, and just kind of skipping that, it really does cheapen the whole super, identity thing. Making Lois Lane just his girlfriend, basically like that. And you just add in a tiny bit like, oh, I'm not sure I want to bang the incredibly handsome, massive alien. Like, sure, Lois, sure, why not? Also cheapens it. And not having Clark Kent revealing himself as Superman to Lois Lane, fucking hell. That is like one of the biggest moments in any Superman character's lifetime. It's one of the most impactful, most emotional, biggest draws, and you just kind of skipped it? There was a mistake from the previous Superman, repeated in essence, where they also buckled that entire stuff, but I didn't like that. It feels like they went just little bit too far. In all aspects, they were there, and then they went 25% further. This does not ruin the movie, mind you. It is still an excellent Superman movie, and I do think this is a very good place to start with for the extended universe. Honestly, this is more of a start point for the DC extended universe rather than it is a start point for Superman. And that is, again, both a strength and a weakness, because it establishes Superman and it opens the path to move forward very rapidly. But what happened the last time DC did that with Batman v Superman? Nothing good whatsoever. So I'm not sure undue haste is the solution either, but it also lets you show Superman at his most heroic and most human. Now, again, I would argue that you could easily do that by Superman Year 1, even better than Year 3, but Again, not a bad movie at all, solid, but feels a little bit too focused on other things than Superman. It unironically comes across more as a, oh yeah, no, I have a great cinematic universe in mind, and Superman is a part of that, but I can't quite give him my complete focus, basically, which does damage the movie. The addition of a little bit too much silly damages the movie, and goddamn the plotline of... Okay, so his parents literally have a speech in this where they go, listen, Superman, listen, Kal-El, you can breed as many of the human women as you want. Build a huge harem, bro. What the fuck? Okay, I mean, as a plot device, it succeeds in doing what it needs to do, which is bring Superman low, make him doubt himself and turn people against him. And this, by the way, is basically just resolved like that. They don't really get a satisfying resolution to that either, as basically everyone just kind of forgets about the fact that they released a clip that was guaranteed to be real and true of Superman's parents going, conquer them, Clark, enslave the bastards and fuck their women. It just kind of gets forgotten about. Granted, he does save Metropolis, but even so, I feel like that required a bit more of a presentation, a bit more of a public speech, a bit more of a public display, you know, for the majority of people to forgive him. Now, there's another reason for why Superman is kind of hated online, because Lex Luthor has created an army of rage monkeys. No, seriously, that happened. Which incidentally is probably the closest, and this is something that I am very happy to say, by the way, there is no politics at all in the movie. None whatsoever. Like, the closest you get is the rage monkey spewing hate online, and that would be beyond an Olympic stretch to connect that with anything political, and the fact that an all-white country of Russians, I think, is invading some all-brown country armed with sticks and stones. But again, this isn't even nearly woke by any stretch of the imagination. This is 12,000 miles in the wrong direction. It merely has the slightest hint of it, and so it is utterly not an issue whatsoever. And deep down, in my core, I remain a DC fan first, and I want DC to do well, and it just hasn't for so long. Largely due to DC, Warner Brothers themselves, just not being able to get out of their own way. And with this, it feels like they did so mostly. Warner Brothers got majoritively out of their own way. They managed to shift 75% out of the way of making a Superman movie, and then just threw in a small kick to the ankle just as he was crossing the finishing line, just to make sure there was a little bit of nonsense in there, you know? Still, I do believe this deserves to be a success. I hope this does get continuations. Whether or not it does, well, again, the marketing campaign, I think, did a lot more damage than good. If they had simply presented this unequivocally, universally, as a good old-fashioned Superman story of just goodness, of saving puppies and squirrels and little girls, it would have done far better than that nonsensical statement a day before the movie's release of, oh, Superman is an immigrant, which isn't mentioned at all in the entire movie, by the way. All they say is he's an alien. I know. We understand. That doesn't make him an immigrant, which is one person moving from one country on Earth to another. Not to mention the obvious implications of politics inherent within that in the current day political debate. And it's not in the movie. If they had simply just shut their fuckholes, it would have had an even more positive reception. Whereas now, I feel as if my own impressions and that of many others online, even those who had previously been rather critical to much of the social media news and the news out of the studio, will now be fighting a bit of an uphill battle to go, no, don't worry, it's actually good, it is actually Superman. As when I went to my screening as well, the movie theater was 1/3 full, maybe? Like, if even that, which again, is not a great sign. Now, I hardly live in the largest of cities, mind you, so there is absolutely an element of that in there as well, but this is Superman. This is the boy in blue. This is a character so famous that probably the only one more famous than him is Jesus Christ. It shouldn't be hard to fill movie theaters around the world with a Superman movie, unless you decide to start shooting yourself in the foot repeatedly and aggressively as well. So, that's pretty much my review of Superman. I do recommend it. I think it's good. It's more of a start for the Justice League than it is for Superman, but not to such an extent that it ruins it. I still prefer Man of Steel as a pure Superman movie, by quite some margin, honestly, and the choice to not cast Henry Cavill in the role as a good guy Superman, as the Boy Scout, is just stupid. It is just ridiculous. It was a terrible idea, and James Gunn does deserve all the stick he can conceivably get for that decision, assuming it was his. But there you go. Superman, a solid 7 out of 10, I'd say, bordering on an 8, 7.5-ish, if we are going to attribute random numbers to the things. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.